Yeah. Oops. Change that. Welcome, everyone. Rough start. It's a new week. It's a rough start to the week. That's all right. We'll recover. It's the Marijuana Time Show. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's January 15th, 2018. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the United States. The official observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I don't know offhand. I don't think that Martin Luther King ever opined on the issue of marijuana legalization. Obviously he was for freedom, but if you look at the 1969 Gallup poll, that showed only 12% of the people in the country were for marijuana legalization. I mean, if you're going to go with statistics and odds, he was probably against it. But again, like many people, I'm sure Martin Luther King was brought up believing that marijuana was bad for you. Maybe he heard a lot of the racist overtones that dominated the actual prohibition of marijuana back in the 30s. But most people of his era, well, all people of his era, were told that marijuana was evil and the devil's lettuce and it was going to destroy you, so on and so forth. I'm not here to give a history lesson about marijuana and prohibition. Just mentioning Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It is the Marijuana Time Show. You can go to marijuanatimes.org and find these videos, plus a bunch of great stories about the cannabis community and industry from a host of great writers. Like I said, you can find these videos, share them, like, comment, all that stuff. You can also find the videos by searching the Marijuana Times on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you search Apple Podcasts for the Marijuana Times Show, you'll find the audio version of the show. Today we're going to talk about U.S. attorneys and how they are reacting to Jeff Sessions' revocation, rescission of the Cole Memo earlier this month. Also, an update on the story we told you about last week about an 11-year-old girl in Illinois whose parents were suing to allow her to use medical marijuana at school. There's some news on that, plus some projections about cannabis taxes and the amount of jobs that can be created by marijuana legalization by 2025. Some stats from New Frontier Data. But first, I'll tell you, of course, the Marijuana Time Show is brought to you by NaturesideCannabis.com. Natureside products, as you see there, are safe for everyday use. If you're growing in Colorado, Washington, and Oregon, they're on the approved list of pesticides for all of those states. If you're a cannabis cultivator, you don't want to put harmful chemicals on your grow to control pests. You want to use organic, all-natural pesticides. You also want to pass regulations in your state. It's very important because if you don't pass regulations, you don't have a license to grow, and that is it for your business. NaturesideCannabis.com, a proud sponsor of the Marijuana Time Show. Go check them out. They are great, and they will help you become regulatory compliant and grow safe, poison-free cannabis. NatureSideCannabis.com. This first story is a story I wrote over at marijuanatimes.org. How do U.S. attorneys react after Jeff Sessions opened the door for a marijuana crackdown? Well, first of all, this is not a comprehensive rundown. It's a brief rundown showing you kind of the gamut, because there's over 90 U.S. attorneys, and they're all going to have different reactions. Some of them are in states where it doesn't matter. If they go after marijuana, it's not legal in their state. There's a lot of states where it is legal, and it's very important. And there's various rundowns that you can find that are more comprehensive. But here's the point about this story. If you don't know what Jeff Sessions did on January 4th, then I've been just go back and watch previous episodes. Go back and watch January 4th episode and 5th, and just the last couple of weeks, we've been talking a lot about Jeff Sessions and the revocation of the Cole Memo. Basically opened the door, as I say in this story, for a marijuana crackdown by U.S. attorneys if they are so inclined. Most of the U.S. attorneys that have publicly had anything to say about this have kind of coalesced around the same area. We're going to take it all by a case-by-case basis. We're going to go after traffickers, big-time traffickers, anybody who's bringing violence or using violence in the illegal market, anybody that threatens the safety of the community. Now, in theory, a regulated tax business that is, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, they're in with all the regulations. They're passing all the regulations. They have their license. They're good to go. They're registered. They're state legal. In theory, they would not be considered a problem to the community. They're not a safety risk to the community. U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Washington, Annette L. Hayes, basically what she has to say here is what many U.S. attorneys have said. So we have investigated and prosecuted over many years cases involving organized crime, violent gun threats, and financial crimes related to marijuana. We will continue to do so to ensure, consistent with the most recent guidance from the Department, that our enforcement efforts with our federal, state, and local tribal partners focus on those who pose the greatest safety risk to the people and communities we serve. As I said, most U.S. attorneys are going down this line, with variations on either side or whatever, but this is the tack that they're taking. And as I said, in theory, a business, a regulated business, a dispensary, a retail center, whatever, that's following state law, they're not a great risk to the community. Now, there's others that have been more, like the Massachusetts U.S. Attorney Andrew Lelling, I said that right, the top federal prosecutor in Massachusetts, he said in the statement that they cannot provide assurances that certain categories of participants in the state-level marijuana trade will be immune from federal prosecution. That's what some U.S. attorneys have decided to do, just be really vague. But it's basically the same thing. It's a case-by-case basis how they're going to do it. U.S. Attorney Bob Troyer in Colorado said there would be no changes in how marijuana laws were enforced there, which is a good thing. But then you have some outliers that may use this and what Jeff Sessions has done as an excuse to go after marijuana. Billy J. Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Oregon, wrote an op-ed article. He said, quote, "I have significant concerns about the state's current regulatory framework and the resources allocated to policing marijuana in Oregon." In other words, he's not a fan of marijuana. He's not a fan of legalization. He's not a fan of the way Oregon is doing things when it comes to legalization. So now, if he has a little leeway, which he does now from Jeff Sessions, he may, get into this a little more. And this op-ed he wrote is very long and just full of, crap. He says, Oregon has a massive marijuana overproduction problem. And he said, quote, "A survey of recent federal cases in Oregon illustrates alarming trends. Says, we also know that even recreational marijuana permitted under state law carries ill effects on public health and safety, as Colorado's experience has shown." And of course, one of the things that people love to point out is that emergency room admissions for marijuana ingestion have gone up in Colorado. And he also points out that teen use in Colorado is above the national average, but he doesn't point out that it's actually going down from before recreational marijuana was legalized. And teen use is not going up anywhere where marijuana has been legalized. And there's been many positive attributes as well. Of course, I'm not going to mention any of those. But he talks about the marijuana-related emergency and hospital admissions, something I've addressed in print before, and I've addressed on this show. Many reasons for this. Better testing. Parents, especially of children, are more willing to admit that their kid maybe got into a pot brownie instead of making up some story because marijuana is illegal. And also, there is an increased supply of edibles. So some kids, and these numbers, not to discount what parents go through, but these numbers, in terms of overall the amount of kids in Colorado, are minuscule. They are fractional. They are so small. We're talking dozens of children in a state with hundreds of thousands of young children. Again, not to discount what parents go through. It's a horrible thing. Your kid gets to a pot brownie, they're sick, you take them to the emergency room, you're very worried. But in terms of overall numbers, they say, there's been a 34% increase. Well, yeah, that's 20 more kids for the year. Accounts for a huge increase. But again, yes, it's up to parents. The supply of edibles is going up. It's much easier to go to the retail store and buy pot brownies than it is to make them. Therefore, more people are going to have pot brownies. That's logic. In any case, this Billy J. Williams seems to be one of the few U.S. attorneys that might use this as an opportunity to go after legal marijuana. And even guys like him may see the fight that they're going to get from state lawmakers, local lawmakers, for many reasons, including the tax revenue, which we're going to talk about here in a later story. They're going to have a fight on their hands, whether they want to allocate resources to this. Now, again, they'll continue to go after big traffickers, violence surrounding the illegal market, things like that, which, they were always going to do. They were doing before Jeff Sessions said anything. Because it's illegal under federal law. It doesn't matter. The Cole Memo said, well, you can't do this. It set guidelines in the Cole Memo. There couldn't be marijuana flowing out of state. They had to follow all the state laws, so on and so forth. Obviously, anybody using violence and making the community less safe is not following state law. So even under the Cole Memo, the U.S. attorneys could go after them anytime they wanted to. Because, again, marijuana is illegal under federal law. Now, last week, switching gears here for a moment, we told you about an 11-year-old girl in Illinois. Excuse me. 11-year-old girl in Illinois whose parents were suing for the right for her to be able to use medical marijuana in school. She has intractable epilepsy. She can't go a day. Well, she could, but she would have many seizures. She can't go a day seizure-free unless she has her cannabis oil and her cannabis patches. They want her to be able to use the patch and be able to use the oil, just like any other kid can use medication at school. I mean, a lot of them are on Adderall and Ritalin and all that, and that's perfectly fine. So anyway, last week we told you about that case, and this week we have a great update. Illinois judge allows 11-year-old girl to use medical marijuana at school. This is from NPR.org. In a decision that may have sweeping effects, a judge has allowed an 11-year-old Illinois girl to use medical marijuana at school. Medical marijuana is legal in Illinois and is against federal law for students, and is against current law for students to use it in school or have school nurses administer it. Now, Ashley Cern is the sole exception. She overcame a leukemia diagnosis at 2 years old with extensive chemotherapy. Some of her treatments eventually led to having semi-regular seizures. Her mother, Maureen Cern, told NPR that since starting medical marijuana treatment, her seizures have immensely declined in number. We're amazed with her progress, Cern said. Her parents filed a lawsuit last week against the Schaumburg School District 54 in the state of Illinois, claiming the state's ban on taking the drug at school violates the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. On Friday, a judge ruled in their favor after hearing from the school district, which reportedly had concerns that its employees may be subject to legal penalties for helping Ashley with her medications. What people seem to misunderstand here is that medical marijuana is a prescription like any other drug. It says, I don't get this. It says it introduces this person into the story and doesn't tell us who they are. It says what people seem to misunderstand is there a medical marijuana prescription like any other drug, Glink said. I guess that's the judge? I don't know. Prohibiting in school would be the same as prohibiting other medications such as Ritalin, Adderall, or Concerta, as I just pointed out. So, good news for this girl. Obviously not good news for, well, it could be good news for other students who need to use medical marijuana in Illinois. And it may help in other states as well. And, at least we can hope. As I said Friday, medical marijuana is going to have to continue even after recreational marijuana is, quote unquote, fully implemented in all 50 states, Basically, when recreational marijuana is as legal as alcohol, you're still going to need medical marijuana programs for children because it's going to be recreational and adult use marijuana is going to be for those who are 21 years and older. And there'll be a little need for medical marijuana for those people, maybe in special cases. But in children, medical marijuana is going to have to continue. This last story is from GlobeNewsWire.com. Cannabis taxes could generate $132 billion, create 1.1 million jobs by 2025. New Frontier data. They put out a report called Cannabis in the U.S. Economy, Jobs, Growth, and Tax Revenue, examining what full adult use legalization of cannabis could generate in terms of federal tax revenues and jobs for the United States economy. They forecast that cannabis has the potential to create cumulatively $131.8 billion in federal tax revenue and 1.1 million new jobs by 2025. Now, of course, these are projections, and you know how well projections go. But it is interesting to see the potential of what cannabis can do. They say if full legalization occurred in all 50 states today, there would be an excess of 782,000 jobs and would increase to 1.1 million jobs by 2025. Full legalization would result in more legal businesses participating in the market, more consumers participating in the legal market, and more employees on official payrolls, resulting in $4 billion in payroll taxes By 2025, payroll deductions would increase to almost $6 billion. Now, obviously, the tax revenue is a big deal. It's a big deal for politicians. It's a big selling point when it comes to legalization in various states. And that's great. Whatever helps marijuana legalization along is great. And obviously, full legalization in 50 states is not going to happen. So these numbers are, based on that. But the one that really interests me, the number that really interests me, and there are tons of estimates as far as job growth goes, but how many jobs are going to be created when you think about all the retail shops, the dispensaries, the cultivators, all the huge farms, the distributors, the processors, the people who make extracts, people who make bongs, people who roll joints, people who make edibles. All of that is going to be an immense job creation machine because it's based on legalizing a market that already has a built-in customer base. When you think about 20 to 30 million regular marijuana users, depending on what estimate you look at, that translates into an already massive industry. How many products do you know of, and can you name, that 30 million people use on a regular basis? All, the big products, but it's like, I use my refrigerator every day, but I don't need to buy a refrigerator once every, 10, 20 years? My dad's had the same refrigerator for almost 30 years in his apartment. So, continuously buying a refrigerator. Cannabis, you use it, it's gone. It's a perishable item. You eat the brownie's gone. You need another brownie. You smoke the joint, it's gone. You need another joint. So the potential's incredible. A continuous market, a massive consumer base, continuously coming back to the industry to buy more. Very few comparable industries. Alcohol. How many jobs are in the alcohol industry? I would dare say a lot. I don't know the number off the top of my head. I could look it up, but a lot. Marijuana's going to be the same way. Massive, massive job creating potential. The sky's the limit, to use a cliche. That's the Marijuana Times show for January 15th, 2018. I am Joe Klare. Go check us out on marijuanatimes.org. Check out the stories, check out the videos, share, like, comment on the videos. Help us continue to grow the show. Check us out on Apple Podcasts. Search the Marijuana Times on there, as well as YouTube and Facebook, as I said. Thank you to NatureSideCannabis.com for being a proud sponsor of the show. NatureSideCannabis.com. All natural, organic pesticides to help you become regulatory compliant, and that's what you need to be to take advantage of what I was just talking about. Immense growth potential in the cannabis industry. The week's just getting started. The year's just getting started. Stick with us here in the Marijuana Times show for all the news and opinion you need about what's going on in the community and the industry and beyond. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow on the Marijuana Times show.